Chosen woman, listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you right now. So many times, when the heart is wounded, the mind insists on believing that everything is over, that there's no path left, that love has died. But true love doesn't fade away, it doesn't die, it just hides behind the pain, behind the misunderstandings and the words that were spoken in moments of weakness. There's something much greater happening inside him than what you can see with your natural eyes. What you two lived through wasn't in vain. Every smile, every tear, every moment of surrender left deep marks, roots that can't be pulled up by life's passing storms. Chosen woman, don't underestimate the strength of a love that was watered with intensity, because what's true withstands time and survives the wounds. You might think it's over, but inside him there's a flame that hasn't been extinguished yet. He might try to disguise it, he might hide behind cold attitudes, he might even physically distance himself, but in the silence of his heart, something still beats for you. There's a war happening inside him, between pride and feeling, between reason and the desire to be by your side. It's as if he's trying to convince himself that moving on without you is the best decision, but deep down, he knows there's a part of him that only finds peace in your embrace. Chosen woman, this revelation needs to sink deep into your heart. The feelings you two built together weren't erased by the fights, by the arguments, or by the silence. They're still there, hidden beneath layers of pain, but alive. And what God joins together, no storm can separate. It might be that today you only see the signs of distance, but in the spiritual realm there's a bond that still connects you two. That's why you're here, listening to this message. It's not by chance. The Lord brought you to this moment because He wants to open your eyes to something greater. He wants you to know that the story isn't over yet. What seems like an ending is often just a turning point, the place where God begins to work to transform what seemed impossible. You need to understand that even though your eyes see separation, in His heart there's movement happening. True love doesn't fall apart because of difficulties. He might have tried to move forward, he might even say he doesn't feel anything anymore, but inside him there's something that insists on remaining. And that's stronger than any justification he could give. This is the revelation: the relationship didn't end inside him. The root you two planted together remains firm, even if it looks dry on the outside. It's like a tree in winter: the leaves fall, the trunk seems lifeless, but the root stays alive, ready to bloom in the right season. And believe it, chosen woman, that season is coming. If hope still exists inside you, if you feel that God has placed in your heart the certainty that this story isn't over, then declare now in faith, I believe. Because faith is the fuel that will prepare the ground for restoration. And this revelation is just the beginning of what the Lord will still show you. Chosen woman, now that you've understood the initial revelation, it's time to open your eyes to signs you might not have noticed until now. So many times, in the midst of pain, anxiety, and the desire for quick answers, you end up misinterpreting His attitudes. It's like a wounded heart puts a lens of pain over everything you see. And that's exactly where the secret lies. What seems like coldness might actually be love trying to hide. Men have a very peculiar way of showing feelings. It's not always with sweet words, it's not always with clear gestures. Sometimes, it's in prolonged silence, in that distant look, or even in the resistance to get closer. You might have thought he's rejecting you, but actually, chosen woman, he might be fighting an internal battle not to show the intensity of what he feels. You know that moment when you notice he avoids looking directly at you for too long? That lost look might carry more truth than 1,000 words. He tries to run away, but his heart can't hide. And behind the apparent indifference, there's a whirlwind of emotions he doesn't know how to deal with. His silence doesn't mean absence of love. Many times, it's just a way he finds to protect himself from the vulnerability that love awakens. Have you noticed how, even from a distance, he still shows concern about small things? Maybe he asks if you got home safe. Maybe he shows interest in details of your life, even though he tries to act like it doesn't matter. These are silent signs, details that reveal a heart that still feels, that still cares, that still fights against the desire to surrender again. Chosen woman, the masculine heart processes love differently. What seems like a need for closeness and dialogue to you often becomes a weight he doesn't know how to carry. That's why he closes up, protects himself, distances himself. But understand, this distancing isn't a sign of lack of love, it's just a reflection of his difficulty dealing with something so deep. He might be trying to convince himself that he needs to be strong, that he needs to stay firm, but inside, he's melting in longing and in the desire to be by your side again. It's important that you realize these subtle signs are answers that God is allowing you to see. Because nothing that's true gets lost in emptiness. Love always gives clues, always leaves traces. And if you look carefully, you'll notice that his heart still speaks, even when his mouth tries to deny it. This silence, these looks, this apparent resistance, all of this might be saying exactly the opposite of what you imagine. Don't fall into the trap of believing he doesn't feel anything anymore. On the contrary, what he feels is so strong that it scares him, and the way he found to deal with it was to hide behind coldness. But the Holy Spirit reveals to you today, love is still alive. And this is where you need to keep your faith firm. Because, chosen woman, when you start seeing the signs beyond what natural eyes show, you position yourself differently. You stop despairing and start trusting. You understand that even in silence, there's a heart screaming inside. And this understanding will prepare you to understand the deeper struggle that's happening inside him. A struggle that's not just about you two, but about the man he feels he needs to become to walk by your side. Chosen woman, now that you've understood the revelation and learned to see the silent signs, it's time to comprehend something even deeper, the battle he fights within himself. This is a silent battle, often invisible to human eyes, but one that consumes the mind and heart of a man when he faces true love. The masculine heart has a unique way of dealing with feelings. When he realizes he's found something that goes beyond the superficial, when he understands that the connection you two have is rare and precious, instead of simply surrendering, he starts questioning himself. It's not whether he loves you, because he already knows that, but whether he's capable of being the man you deserve. This is the root of the distance you feel. It's not absence of love, it's the fear of not measuring up. The man who truly loves often feels pressured by his own heart. He looks at you and sees a woman who awakens something greater in him than himself, and that can scare him. He starts asking himself, can I be enough? Will I be able to handle everything this love demands of me? And in this conflict, his mind tries to transform love into disinterest, when actually it's just fear. This fear disguises itself as coldness, dresses itself in silence, and presents itself as distance. But chosen woman, don't be fooled. Behind the mask, there's a man who feels deeply, who desires, but who doesn't know how to deal with the responsibility that true love demands. That's why he runs, why he hesitates, why he tries to pull away. Not because he doesn't love, but because he loves so much that he fears not being worthy. His internal struggle is like a storm. On the outside, you see the closed sky, the strong wind, the darkness. But inside, there's a process happening, a battle between who he is today and the man he needs to become to be by your side. This is where pride rises up, where insecurity screams, where past scars try to convince him that he can't live this story. But here's the revealed truth: God doesn't unite two people to leave them trapped in fear. This struggle he faces is part of the transformation process that the Lord allows, because before restoring the relationship, God is restoring his heart. This restlessness, this resistance, is the sign that the Holy Spirit is working, stirring, molding, breaking down the structures that prevent this man from surrendering completely. You, chosen woman, need to understand this with spiritual maturity. The pulling away isn't rejection. It's just evidence that inside him there's a war between giving up and fighting, between running and surrendering. And believe it, the more intense the struggle, the deeper the feeling he carries for you. Don't allow doubt to steal your peace. Don't interpret his silence as disinterest, but as a battlefield where love is slowly conquering fear. Because deep down, even if he tries to deny it, he knows that his heart's resting place is by your side. And when you understand this struggle, you begin to see that there's a purpose behind every distance, every delay, every silence. It's in this ground of waiting that God is preparing not just him, but you too, for the time of restoration. And this is where we begin to understand the power of what's to come. The power of restoration that the Lord is already writing over your lives. Chosen woman, now that you understand the internal struggle he faces, it's time to open your heart to something even greater, the power of restoration. This is where many give up, because they believe restoration simply means two people getting back together, as if nothing had happened. But no, what God has for you goes far beyond a simple return. True restoration is a divine process that transforms, that matures, and that renews from the inside out. Every true relationship goes through cycles. There are moments of intense closeness, where love blooms with strength and joy. And there are moments of distance, where it seems like everything is lost. But these ups and downs are part of the growth, the preparation for something more solid, more mature and deeper. There's no strong love without trial. There's no eternal bond without moments of testing. Restoration doesn't happen only when he comes back to you. It begins before, inside you, in how you choose to deal with the silence, with the waiting, and with the uncertainties. It begins when you decide not to allow pain to harden your heart, but to let faith feed your hope. Chosen woman, the power of restoration lies in your ability to keep believing even when the signs seem contrary. And it's in this process that you need to understand, while you're getting stronger, he's also being molded. God works in layers, breaking down pride, healing old wounds, removing fears that prevent him from fully living the love he feels for you. The time of waiting isn't loss, it's preparation. It's like the seed that's under the earth. You don't see anything happening on the outside, but inside, the roots are growing, establishing themselves, until at the right time, the sprout appears and life blooms again. Chosen woman, don't underestimate the power of your faith in this process. You have the ability to influence the spiritual atmosphere with how you position yourself. When you choose to believe, when you declare in prayer that there's still life in this love, you release energy, faith, and hope that reach his heart. Even if he doesn't consciously realize it, his spirit feels it. Your faith becomes a bridge that connects his heart back to yours. And here's a powerful truth. The entire universe conspires in favor of those who don't give up on true love. Because love is a divine force, created by God himself, and he delights in restoring what has been wounded. If you remain firm, confident, and full of hope, the time of restoration approaches like an inevitable season. Maybe today you look at this situation and see only distance, silence, and resistance. But what you don't see is what's happening in the invisible realm. The Lord is moving pieces, opening paths, breaking barriers, preparing encounters, aligning hearts. He's working on details you can't even imagine. Because when He promises restoration, He doesn't just bring back what was lost, He brings something new, something greater, something better than before. And that's why you can't give up. The power of restoration isn't just in the reunion, but in the transformation that happens during the process. Both you and He will come out of this phase stronger, more mature, and more prepared to live the fullness of this love. And when you understand this, you'll be ready to understand your true mission in this process. Because, chosen woman, you weren't called to live an ordinary story, but to carry a greater purpose within the love that God reserved for you. Chosen woman, after everything you've heard up to this point, it's time to understand the role that God has entrusted to you within this story. You weren't called to live an ordinary narrative, nor to carry just any kind of love. What burns in your heart was placed there by God, and this already shows that there's a much greater purpose than simply restoring a relationship. Your mission now isn't to chase after Him, beg for attention, or try to convince Him with words. Your mission is much deeper. It's to grow, to flourish, to become the complete woman that God already planned for you to be. Because when you position yourself in this place of faith, strength, and confidence, you become exactly the light He needs to see to find His way back. Understand this. True love isn't recovered through desperation, but through transformation. It's not about pursuing, but about attracting. It's not about begging for affection, but about radiating so much light, so much firmness, so much hope, that He'll have no choice but to see in you the answer His heart was searching for. You don't need to convince Him, chosen woman, because the Holy Spirit does that in your place. That's why you need to dedicate yourself now to being the best version of yourself. Not just for Him, but for you and for the purpose God has for your life. When you strengthen yourself emotionally, spiritually, and even physically, you send a silent message that you're ready. You show that you're a firm, confident woman who doesn't need human approval to know the value you carry. This doesn't just inspire, but attracts, because the man you love will be impacted when he realizes that the woman he almost lost is actually the woman he needs most. And remember, what's yours by divine right will never be taken from you. There might be separations, there might be moments of silence, it might even seem like everything ended, but God's plan doesn't fail. What He joins, He sustains. What He promises, He fulfills. Your mission is to trust, remain firm, and keep believing. Chosen woman, you're the protagonist of a story of overcoming, reconciliation, and love that conquers barriers. Don't allow the enemy to steal your faith with thoughts of defeat. Every tear you've shed, every prayer you've made, every dawn when your heart cried out in silence before God is being answered. There's an appointed time for all things, and the restoration you're waiting for is a living promise in the Lord's heart. While you walk in your mission, understand that you're not alone. Heaven moves in favor of those who don't give up on true love. Angels work in silence, opening doors, moving hearts, preparing reunions. And when the right time comes, what seemed lost will return to you, but it will return transformed, renewed, and even stronger. So, chosen woman, remain firm. Keep praying, keep believing, keep being light. Your mission is to become living proof that true love doesn't die, it only matures and grows stronger through trials. And when He looks at you, He'll see not just the woman He loves, but the woman God molded to walk beside Him. What's yours will find its way back. Because love that comes from God always returns, not in the same way, but transformed and unshakable. And when that moment comes, you'll understand that every wait, every silence, every struggle was worth it. Chosen woman, if this message spoke to you, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel to keep receiving words of hope, revelation, and restoration for your love life. Share this message with other women who also need to hear what God is revealing today. And remember, true love never dies, it always finds its way back.